From the time that we grew up, we've been told that monogamy was outdated, that it was oppressive.
Monogamy is stupid, and most women would not be monogamous outside of patriarchy, the same way most men aren't monogamous inside of patriarchy.
Monogamy is a tool of oppression. True modern monogamous marriage originated during the agricultural revolution as a way to control female sexuality.
Another take that I'm not thinking people are gonna like is that I'm pretty sure that society is evolving out of monogamy.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Oh, evolving. That's why you see folks acting like this.
Hey, it's not up to me. It's not up to me. Out of town, thugging with my round. My pussy beat, my booty hole round. I'm looking for
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
And this is what these people actually believe, that we're evolving, that this is evolution. They don't understand that for most of humanity, for hundreds of thousands of years, polyamory and polygamy was the norm. Monogamy was the answer to a problem. And it's no coincidence that after monogamy was adopted, that all of civilization was built. All of our instincts are set up for polyamory and polygamy. So it's completely reasonable that as our values have deteriorated, we're going back to our instincts. But this idea that this is an evolution and not a degeneration is complete nonsense. And today we're going to be reacting to Louise Perry. She wrote a book called the Case Against the Sexual Revolution. I highly recommend. She's a very brilliant lady. She's completely based. And this is her on trigonometry, and she's laying the case for monogamy and the consequences that we're paying for monogamy kind of being pushed to the side by these crazy people.
Who could have predicted that the invention of the pill and also the decriminalisation of abortion, which happened soon after, would have produced more illegitimacy? That's really weird, right? You'd expect the opposite because suddenly women have control over their fertility. But I think the reason is it's because the absolute amount of extramarital or premarital sex that was happening increased. And because contraception, particularly that early form of the pill, isn't actually that reliable.
Yeah, that's an excellent point that doesn't get talked about enough, that whenever birth control, the pill in particular, whenever that idea first started floating around, one of the cases that they used for why it would be so useful was that the illegitimacy rate, which, if you don't know, is the rate that children are born to parents that aren't wed. So if you're born out of wedlock, you would be considered illegitimate by the standard. At the time, in the 1960s, I believe the illegitimacy rate nationwide was about 3.5%. For certain communities, it was worse. I believe African Americans was about 25%. But and they said that, well, with the pill, what's going to happen is, there will be no more unwanted pregnancy because, they can just take a pill. It's no big deal. Nobody's going to get pregnant. But what it did is it created an atmosphere where before women kind of had an out to say, oh, well, I don't want to have sex. It wasn't really the norm. Well, now they didn't really have an excuse. And we kind of had this free love crap that ended up happening in the 60s. And that had devastating effects that we're still feeling today. And the exact opposite thing has happened. They said that the illegitimacy rate was going to go down. It skyrocketed amongst the general population. It went from 3.5% in the 1960s to nearly 50% today. In certain communities, African Americans in particular, it's up to 75 or 80%. Okay, that's 3 in 4. They thought it was bad then at 1 in 4. 3 and 4. And percentage-wise, look at what's going on with the national average from 3 to 40 to 50% illegitimacy is crazy. And yeah, some of these communities have serious problems going on
now. Of that amount of extramarital, premarital sex that was happening, even only 1% of women getting pregnant, that's still a lot. Some of those women are always going to keep the baby. They're not going to want to have an abortion for whatever reason. And so all of a sudden you have this spike in illegitimacy. And I think that produces this sort of feedback loop.
100%. This degenerate behavior breeds more degenerate behavior.
Where it becomes normal and it becomes normal. And now, I mean, I think in the UK, it's like half of kids are now born outside of wedlock. I think we crossed that threshold a couple of years ago. And in some groups, it's even higher.
Do you think there will be some kind of snap back against it, or is it single parenthood all the way down?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it might be that we're just reverting to the human mating norm is polygynous.
Yeah, this is where she's going
right?
to get into the real
where
shit,
you have,
right?
Just explain that for people.
Where you have one male having multiple female partners, and
which is great if you're the male that's having children with all the women, but for most of the men out there, this is horrible. For society, it's bad because it's not stable. You have a bunch of pissed off men who are competing, back then, with competing blood sport type shit for mating rights, and then you have lots of children being raised with no male figure around, and the correlation between kids being raised in single parent homes, mostly by women, and the downfall of society is like 1-to-1.
right, where you have
Just explain that for people.
Where you have one male having multiple female partners and some portion of men not having any. Right, the monogamous system that prevailed until recently in the West is quite unusual. I think it's 20% of societies have a monogamous system, which does, of course, include some of the most successful civilizations to have ever existed, including Christendom and Roman Empire.
Yeah, and people don't, one of the things a question that they had whenever they first started looking at the human genome was, why do people have twice as many female ancestors as they do male ancestors? And one of the reasons for that is that most men, the average man had 0 children and the average woman had 1 child, going all the way back. So one man would end up reproducing with a bunch of women, but so often that it ended up that the average man had 0 kids.
But it's still kind of an outlier. So it may be that we're just, now that we've lifted the monogamous expectation, it may be that people are now reverting to the species norm, which is a smaller number of attractive men having lots of different women.
So
yeah, and this is what we're dealing with here. And I don't know why for some reason, men have kind of decided that the people that we're going to listen to talk about these things are the super successful men, the Andrew Tates, and this kind. Why are we listening to what these dudes say? We should be listening to the working Joe, the average man. You know that society is in deep shit when the average guy, I'm talking 5 or 6 out of 10, has a hard time getting a stable relationship. That's how you know the system is fucked. Because most men are just average people. But we sit and we listen to these in the red pill space, these people that are, alpha males, we'll say, and all they do is justify why they can sleep with all the women, and that's just how the system is set up, when they're actually wrong about that. They're prescribing, they have the best prescription for high status men to take advantage of the current system, but most men don't fall under that bracket. We need to get, our values have completely deteriorated, and we need to get those values back into place, and it's going to be hard work. But we came from living in fucking trees and living in straw huts to coming together because it was necessary to build society and build a safer world for everybody. So you cannot tell me that it's not possible to fix this shit.
Genghis Khan model.
Yeah, maybe not quite as extreme as the Genghis Khan model, but yeah, a move in that direction.
But effectively moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you already hear stories. I won't mention names of celebrities and successful podcasters who are practicing very much
everybody
along those lines.
And
I think today we women get a lot of criticism for being promiscuous, and I personally believe that promiscuity is the number one reason why society's falling apart right now. I think if more than anything else, that you could probably say the kind of like Nietzsche had that observation, the death of God. I think that, but this all kind of ties into itself. But we kind of get this idea that promiscuous women bad, but promiscuous man good. But and then we have these men. Let's say we go back to the average men we were talking about earlier. You have them criticizing women for being promiscuous, when those men, if they had the ability to, would also be, just like the high status Andrew Tate types. So just because you don't have the ability to be promiscuous doesn't make you morally virtuous for not being. It's like that Jordan Peterson thing with the rabbit. A rabbit isn't virtuous. It doesn't have the ability to, attack or be dangerous. That's not a virtue. So, but what I would like to see happen is as men develop themselves and become more sophisticated, that they don't take the Andrew Tate approach, that they do latch on. And, I think the best system that we found so far, this monogamous system is the waiting till marriage. I think that, not even from a religious point of view, but just from a stats, evidence, and data-driven point of view, I believe that it's the best model for society to thrive in. We just have to decide what kind of world we want to live in. Do we want to live in a dumpster fire, or do we want to live in a world that's, organized and people get along and it has a high trust society where you don't have to worry about getting stabbed over something stupid or whatever?
Well, right, coming back to our conversation about children growing up without fathers.
Precisely.
If there's 100 children with one father, it's probably going to struggle to give them
So that's certainly true. Yeah, that's certainly true. And I think also it's probably bad for societies to have lots of men without mates.
Yeah, people are getting pissed.
Because we do know that fatherhood kind of tames men in terms of men commit less crime, and that just societies with lots of sexually frustrated men are more less peaceful societies.
I don't know if tame is the word that I would use there, but it definitely parenthood forces you to be an adult. In order for your children to survive, you have to put something above yourself. Because if you put yourself at the top, I mean, your kid's not going to make it. So I don't know, but I guess it does tame somewhat, because if you're putting something in front of yourself, I think taming is part of being an adult.
And also, I know you can go from that to be like, oh well, in that case, we need to be apportioning women to all of the incels, and there's like a very
no. We need to be portioning. We need to be portioning people to their matches. What happens is that because men marry across and they sleep down, women marry across, but they sleep up. So they're sleeping around with all these men that are above their station. And then when they marry somebody, he's worse than all the people that she's been sleeping with and she has sexual access to. Or for men, it's the opposite. Men are sleeping down, and once they meet somebody that's across from them, they're like, oh, I'll marry her. So it's one of the many reasons why this system is way worse on women than it is men. I mean, men have it rough too, but that's kind of the point here, is that children have it worse. Most men have it worse. Most women have it worse. There's a small number of women and a small number of men that are doing better, but but normal people like you and me aren't going to keep putting up with this shit.
There's a very dystopian vision that could lead from that insight. But it's also just, you can compare, say, different African countries, some of which are side by side, some of which are Muslim, some of which are Christian, and therefore either permit polygamy or don't. And you can see straightforwardly these otherwise similar societies are made more violent and unstable and have more domestic violence and have more child abuse and whatever by
100%. The safest people in society statistically are married women.
Virtue of not being monogamous. So just based on the data, you can quite clearly see that the monogamy norm is a good one. Who could have predicted that
I think that this is just the truth. And we need to see more of this kind of thing, people that are pushing back, because the only thing that the other side has is feelings. And I think when we have morality, we have the evidence, and we have history, we have everything on our side for why this is all bullshit. And it's going to have to go. It's going to go a good way or a bad way, but things cannot continue, and the human race cannot continue with this polygamous bullshit, because, I mean, people just aren't going to put up with it. I mean, you see the way that people are acting today. Everybody's out of control. We're heading more and more. We're deteriorating more and more and degenerating more and more. And where this leads up, I have no idea. And it scares the shit out of me. And it scares the shit out of you. This shit is nuts. Yeah, and what the fuck are you gonna do? But I appreciate you guys stopping by here. Be sure to like and subscribe. We got a lot more videos coming, all on the downfall of Western society. And I appreciate you checking me out. Have a good day.